A video, and that is from a separate studio by Canon Weather. Good morning, Canon Weather. Good to have you good to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Now, I believe you've been keeping well, Canon. We've not had you in studio for a while, and of course, these are changing times, and the only thing they say that does not change is change.
Thank you. I've been keeping well, keeping house, and occasionally going out. I've done a lot of reading, a lot of writing. Yesterday was my 50th birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
Happy belated birthday.
I think the pandemic has, the ground has shifted. We have gone to factory setting, and going forward, even in the post-COVID period, there are things that we are going to do differently as the human race. Otherwise, if we fail to adapt, then we will become extinct. There are good things which have happened. There are difficult things. It will give a hit to our economy, a very negative hit, but we shall overcome. But there are also very many good things. We have learned that we all are one human race. There's no black, there's no yellow, there's no green. What I do here will affect you wherever you are. We are one. That is why our Creator said, it is not good for man to be alone. We survive, we work for one another, we grow one another, we are together. So every action you take, please remember that you're your brother's keeper, you're your sister's keeper. What I do will kill you. What I do will make you alive. What you do will kill me. So please take care.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eda. Now, let's move on to that question that we're asking, and it's to do with the extension given by the president. Starting off with the movement from county to county, do you feel that those restrictions, first of all, have been effective so far?
I think the restrictions have borne some fruit. If you look at it, that this is a disease, that this is a problem that comes through movement. It was in China, and within a short period, within I think a week, it had gone to Europe and America and South America, and now it's come through traveling. And the epicenters are basically the towns, the cities. That is why you look at the epicenter was in China, in a city. Look at New York. It's not much in the villages. So the restrictions on movements have, to some extent, limited the spread, which is very, very good for us as a country. Why do I say so? We are not as prepared. If it had started here, the way it started in China, I think half of Kenyans would be dead.
But having said that, whether one of the questions, of course, is whether we have true figures. And this is because we have been told by government that we're going to have mass testing. That has not happened. Currently, the testing that is being done is mainly of people either who have been thought to be in contact with positive cases or those who have traveled from other countries. So we really are you confident that we actually have the real figures on the ground?
No, we don't have true figures. We really have we have figures we are working with, but the extent of the virus infections, I think, in my view, much larger. There are also people who die in the villages, and they're buried, and a lot is not recorded. We are now going by the people who have been rounded up, or who have gone to hospital, or people who have been admitted, and then the people who have had in contact with them. Even contact tracing is not that massive, is not that extensive. We have, therefore, limited figures. Let's not think that the 350 or the 400 is the figure. There are quite a number of people who are carrying the virus outside there, and some get healed, as we've seen even in other countries or other places. Some also fall ill, and we think they die and bury. There are so many Kenyans who die without us having
records or there being any records of that.
So it is true that the numbers we are having by the ministry is not reflective of the reality on the ground.
Do you think then at some point, once we, because again, the nature of the disease is that it spreads very fast, particularly when those who are positive are, moving around. And as a result, could there be a time where we're going to have a huge upsurge by virtue of the fact that we don't have the right figures right now?
I followed up New York and America. There's a time it keeps on going up, then it settles. So until we reach that level where it settles, we are still at the risk of having an upsurge, especially when we do not have accurate figures. However, the measures that have been taken has a way of slowing the pace, especially if people obey. You remember when it started in China, the information was scanty. The wisdom on the ground was scanty. But by the time it's reaching us here in Kenya, a lot has been developed. Mechanisms have been developed to control it, to take measures. And also, there are people who get it and they recover from it. There are people who carry it and they don't develop the fully blown attack. So a time may come that we reach the peak. We don't know when, but chances are there. Going by the experiences other people have gone through, and going by the fact that now we are entering into the rainy seasons, and it is a problem associated with breathing and so on. So we remain in prayer, we remain obeying what has been said, but let us remain alert, because we have not
and your thoughts also, there's also been the argument that the Ministry of Health started off very well with giving us updates and consistent on that, very consistent on giving us the numbers tested, the numbers that we have now, the number of deaths, the number of recoveries, but there has been little in terms of giving us direction. Should there be a full-blown pandemic where now we're dealing with the real figures, what is government planning to do? What is the game plan? What is the long-term plan? Because it's good to have the figures and it's good to have the updates, but what is the plan? What is the government planning to do?
I think if you look at it, it's amazing that the minister has done well, Minister Kagwe has done well, especially giving people information at a time when there's panic. When there's fear, people need information. But we also would like to see concrete plans cascaded from the sub-county level, where we're able to say, in this sub-county, should we have a surge, this is how we are going to handle it. That is not taking place. We have seen just governors and there are people prostrating all over, but not doing concrete, setting up hospitals, setting up beds, setting up spaces, setting up institutions that, should we have a large upsurge, will be able to take care. We saw in China, within a week, they did an hospital for 2,000 people. We want to see our army, our soldiers, everybody not whining and dining in the barracks. We want to see movement so that we are ready. We are saying if 2,000 Kenyans are down, we will be able to take them to centers where they can be taken. I've seen some counties, you look at, they go and pick banco beds from schools, and then they say this is the COVID. It's amazing. And this is a crisis that threatens our very existence, the very basis of our lives. Everything else we have worked for can remain here as we go. So we need to put all resources. Now that is not working very well. That is not coming up very well. The minister there is not coming. The president, you need to ensure that this part also comes. Kenyans need to know that if 2,000, 3,000 are down today, we have the capacity and ability to deal with that. All right, there's also the extension of the curfew. Your thoughts on this before we look at the legality of what government is doing currently, but once they find you outside violating the curfew terms without a good reason or with what they would call a reasonable reason, then they will assume that you have been with somebody positive. But first, let's start with your thoughts on the extension of just the curfew. I think the extension of the curfew is good. Good in the sense that we are not very prepared. And then we also do not have the scientific facts, even the ability to deal with an upsurge. So the easy way is to take steps that have been taken by others and seems to protect. The easy way today, therefore, would be to have some restrictions, people working from home, and at night, people not moving. So the extension is good. It seems to have worked for the first 21 days. I know it is very hard on people. It is very hard on those who want their daily wages. It's hard on businesses. But the choice between being buried and not moving, you can take the choice of not moving. So I would thank the president and the team for extending it. But there should be keen observation so that it's not just extended as a matter of fear, but based on figures, based on science, based on knowledge. What does that require? That requires that we have upskilled to mass testing, mass random testing, so that we know the extent
to which we're dealing with.
Yes.
All right, that brings me now to the next part, which is a story that is on page 2 of the Standard. But this is the members of parliament have termed the 20,000 penalty on those who fail to wear masks or who are caught violating the curfew terms to be illegal and have refused or declined to sign that particular order. So your thoughts on this, is that the right direction to take? From a legal perspective, they say it is illegal for them to charge you 20,000 if you are caught.
I think it is not. 20,000 is very, very punitive. More punitive than traffic offences. Whereas it is wrong to be found outside curfew, roaming around, it is a measure that would be a misdemeanor in law. A small offence, where 1, 2, 3, 4,000 would be some 4,000 maximum. But 20,000 is not only punitive.
That's
more than minimum wage.
Sorry to interrupt you,
Yes.
but is the issue the fact that it's too much, or the fact that it's illegal, outright illegal? Because if we take, for instance, masks, if you're caught without a mask, there are those who cannot afford a mask. So how do we make that punitive?
I think for human beings also are difficult. There must be a way in which you have an option. If you do this, what is the option? And that option is a small fine. We made the first mistake that we declared masks mandatory, but we never thought of those who cannot afford. Those who cannot afford 50 shillings, 30 shillings. I thought government should have ensured we have enough masks sourced ready, not for businessmen and quasi-businessmen to very quickly spring up made-up clothes in the streets, and they're charging 200, 300, and you fear the police, so you have to buy. We should have made it available for our vulnerable groups, distributed them. Then we say, from today, if you are found without one, we will arrest you and you will be fined 1,000 shillings. As a scarecrow, not as punitive to kill people. Some of the people are already dying of hunger. They're already dying of fear. They're already down there. They can't afford 50 shillings. So that mistake we did. Punitive 20,000, no. There must be some form of option. If you're arrested, what do? We can fine you 500 shillings. In fact, going beyond 1,000 is asking too much. Yeah. The minimum wage in this country is 12,000. So if, for instance, you arrest somebody, and the majority are in the minimum wage, you can get the figures. You arrest somebody and you take their 2 months' salary, and they're already on half salary, or they're already on unpaid leave. What exactly are you trying to say? And what if they don't pay? You take them into quarantine, and then you bring in other COVID-affected people, then they get infected. Then, sometimes also decisions can be taken that shows you yourself, the leader, something is not right in the head.
And of course, even those quarantine and isolation centers, you are there at your own cost, which of course is another cost right there. But maybe for the benefit of us to fully understand, where does that leave us as Kenyans? Should somebody be arrested today? What is the law? Does that mean that they're not going to be fined the 20,000?
Now, when you get the law strictly, then you cannot be charged unless you undergo due process. Due process is you are taken to court, the court finds you guilty, then the court makes a decision. It is never for the police or any other person to arrest you and say, I find you guilty. He cannot be the prosecutor, the arresting officer, and the judge. Our constitution prohibits that under all circumstances, including in death. So that even when police are enforcing this, please enforce this with the mind that you should not be the judge, the prosecutor, the whatever. It is actually to make it easy, where we say, we have caught you, something is wrong, and pay something just to show that you are remorseful, and we move on. But when now you have to bring law, real law, then the police or any other organ is not allowed to impose any fine anywhere unless you go through due process. And due process means there's a judge who is independent, there's a prosecutor, and you are there, and you are heard fully saying, yes, I was not wearing a mask for this reason. And that reason could be good enough to be beyond wearing a mask.
So due process must be followed. All right, let's finish off with matters education. And the other thing that we experienced over the weekend is the extension of school holidays by the Ministry of Education. And that is also on the backdrop of exams so far not being postponed or changed. They still expect that they're going to go on time. But of course, the extension of the holidays is for the safety of the children, to ensure that there is no gathering, so that we are still in line with the Ministry of Health and World Health Organization regulations and advice. But your thoughts on, first of all, how prepared are students going to be, given that we are dealing, first of all, with a very fluid situation? Secondly, we were not prepared for this even in terms of material.
I think here, the Ministry of Education is playing ping pong with the parents and with the children. A good planning, I've seen other countries, they have decided schools will open in September. Very clear. And then other planning goes on. The exams are set here, the hours. They can still go on as scheduled. All you need to do is to set only what has been taught. You remove part of the syllabus that has not been taught, it will still be good exams. Otherwise, you plan in a way that you say, if we go with this problem up to, let's say, July, August, then the exams will be done in April next year. One of the things the government should do is always to plan and have a fixed plan. God himself wants us to plan. Whenever you want to build a tower, Jesus gave a seminar, he said, don't you sit down, estimate the cost. Now we have to sit down and say, look, suppose something is clear. We have a vaccine by let's say May, or we have a way out by June. When do we resume school? How do we recover the syllabus? How do we do it, ensure that they set the exams, set everything in motion? How will the economy be? Looking at it, you will see that the schools may just open in August. 3 months for students who have been at home from February all the way, it may not be necessary unless we are just setting the things of the earlier years. So, Professor Magoha and the President, people now need a clearer plan. Parents need to have a good plan. The country needs to have a good, concrete plan. I've seen other countries, they have said schools will open in September. I've seen that is in Britain. Even if they're listening on business, they say schools will be this. Here we are still flip-flopping, saying, oh, next month, next week. That is not proper.
But even if there was a plan, whether don't you think that there is a problem in terms of how prepared students are going to be, given that there are those who've continued with their online learning, but we have a huge number of students who don't even have classrooms, let alone, be able to prepare online or even listen to radio or television or whatever material that government is providing, which is digital.
Let me tell you, I hear rumors that government is providing some online learning. I hear that's a rumor. I'm always on the internet working and doing and making videos and doing all. If the same government promised laptops, they themselves promised laptops. We promised as TNA, the first government. We were not able to provide it because it is expensive. So how many parents in Kenya have these modern phones? Very few. The online learning is for a few elite parents, a few elite high-class parents, those who, notwithstanding the fact that they went to school in bare feet, but now are able. The majority of the Kenyan child, even the parent, has no phone. But those who have phones, they have phones we generally call in Kenya mulika mwizi. And even those who have mulika mwizi, the airtime in it is 10 bob or 5 bob. And it had been borrowed. It had been a core airtime. So the line is almost being seen. Their children cannot learn. There is no online learning that can form a basis that we can stand on to say learning is going on. Let the situation end. Then we decide from here, what are we going to test? Are we going to test up to the time the schools were closed? That is good, perfectly in order. Or are we going to add another 3 months of learning? Then we test. That is good. But if we are going to put Weda's child, who is always in the internet seeing America, Britain, and India, and you want the same child to compete with my cousin's child or my sister's child, who is also somewhere in the remote parts of Seme, that would be unfair. That would not be our government. So online learning has been said on TV, but actual learning is not there. Even me, I'm not supervising my children on the so-called online learning. I'm telling them we are now battling with what to eat. We are battling with whether we are safe, we are not dying. And thirdly, we are secure. Learning will come when things are settled. If they don't settle, too bad.
So would you recommend then a postponing of the national examinations until a time where we are sure that we can set a plan and say in 2 months, schools return and prepare for exams?
If end of the 21 days, the schools do not resume, then I expect and I beg my president to come out with a clear plan where either the exams, if they are going on in November, they will be based on the material which had been taught before the schools were closed. Or the exams will be set to April next year. That also only works when we are clear when the schools are opening. Let's say if we are saying the schools will open in September or in July. The key word here is when are we opening? Otherwise, saying, oh, the learning is going on, oh, the schools will remain open, oh, that is making our world and our life more difficult in difficult COVID circumstances. But when all is said and done, if you want to do a good job, I think we should think of having exams in April next year.
All right, and maybe let's finish off with the economy. And of course, that is another area that government really needs to step up to ensure that they cushion the Mwananchi and Kenyans from the effects that we expect. What are you happy so far? Are you satisfied so far with what government has done to ensure that we are at least trying to normalize situation and make it equal for all?
No. I think where we are now, we are still playing politics. We're still finding a little money here and sending it to people. And some of the people who are sending it, we don't know. So the real people have put in their names and their relatives. I think one of the things the government should be clear about is whether we'll have enough food, grains, just grains. Because there's no movement going around in the world today. Rice is not coming from Pakistan. Food is not moving. America is not moving. Britain is not moving. So looking at the post-COVID, will we have food? For now, instead of sending people money, it would have been money used to buy whatever, to mop up whatever food that is there in the international market, which is still moving, for us to store, so that we say we have enough food to run us for 6 months after the end of COVID. Number two, we should be mapping out the people who are so really vulnerable. They are there. We don't have data. We just say, if you go to Madare, oh, these people are not able. There are very many rich people down there. If we go here, these people, we need to map them, have record of them, and they are well known. Then we estimate how much it would be, it would cost to sustain these people, number one. Number three, we then need to work out proper distribution channels. It is not something where somebody goes and then gives the people food and then people fight over it. You saw it in Kibera. We saw it. There should be a way that has been established. We identify these people. A time is scheduled, then they come and pick whatever help. But either way, we must take the people who are really vulnerable. If we don't, then if you close yourself in Karen in your house and your food that will take you 3 years, they will come and pick it. They'll come and share at your table and you will not like it. And because they'll not be coming invited, they'll be coming by force. Absolutely. So looking at it, I think government, please up your game on this. Up your game. We want to see the minister in charge of agriculture, the minister in charge of planning, all these people working and helping the president, not just disappearing also under COVID. This is the time they come out also.
All right, Weda, we'll have to wind up there because of time. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. That's Kenon Ambrose Weda there, and a lawyer as well, just weighing in on some of the things that we're going through as a country. Of course, one of those being the extension, and the question that we had asked is whether the extension, you support the extension of dusk to dawn curfew and the cessation of movement in some counties. For now, we're going to take a short break. Morning Express continues after the break. Do stay with us.